Hey there, welcome to We're Just Talking About It. You're listening to Season 2, Episode 13. This week we have a brand new guest on the show. Her name is S2E13 Salma. She goes by Salma in our interview. Salma was in the first grade when the Taliban took over in Afghanistan. She and her family returned from Pakistan in 2002 after the Taliban collapse. Against her parents' wishes, Salma decided she wanted to study Sharia Law. She said it was her curiosity that led her down this path. She asked herself, if I didn't inherit Islam, would I still choose Islam as my religion? Possibly a question many of you have asked about your own religions. We dive into this question, plus talk about the education system in Afghanistan, and start to break down some common misconceptions about Islam. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the show, and you want us to just call you Salma? Does that work for you?
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you for inviting me to talk about these important issues. Actually, my first name is S2E13, but it's a little bit hard for everyone in West to pronounce it. So I usually go by my middle name, which is Salma. Yes.
Great. So we'll just start with a quick biography of you. If you want to just, you've given us your name. Your last name is S2E13, and if you want to just tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what your education was like, and what's your career, and what you're doing as a job right now, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I was born in Afghanistan. I went to school in Afghanistan. I was in first grade when regime change happened and then Taliban took over. So my father didn't want us to, just stay home. So we went to Pakistan to go to school. I did my school in Pakistan. Then after a collapse of Taliban regime, we came back. It was 2002. We came back to Afghanistan, and the last 2 years of my school, I went to school in Afghanistan. Then every year, what happens is that when you finish your school, you take entrance exam for university. It's the Concours of Afghanistan. I'm sure you must have heard about it, but it's a highly competitive procedure to get into university. So from there, I decided to go to Islamic law, Sharia law. My family, they had some objections because the job security is not that good if you're studying, Sharia law.
Sure.
And then for me, it was really important because growing up, it was always a question. When you inherit a religion, you always question if you were given the choice, would you still, be in this religion that you were born in? So that curiosity led to me wanting to go to Islamic law, to Sharia law. And I, against my family's desire, I decided to go to Islamic law. So I did Islamic law in Afghanistan, the Kabul University.
So
the best.
I wanted to just jump in here real quick. That's a fascinating thing for you to do. Were there a lot of other women in the courses with you? Was that another reason your parents were hesitant that this was seen as a man's study, like engineering might be more for men, or how did that discussion go?
Yes. There were a lot of women, quite incredible women, and I learned a lot. There is this misconception in Afghanistan that, the families, they want their children to be doctors, engineers, lawyers, and they really don't see other professions as, important as, all these three I listed. So there were a lot of women. And the other thing was that in Sharia law, the women and men, they are two separate classes. They don't study together.
Wow.
Yes. And all the men, they come through madrasas, so they go to Islamic schools, and then the best of them can get into, Sharia law at the university. At least at that time, it was like that. I'm not sure if it has changed now. But women, they come through Concours. So all the women, they had studied. They were very open-minded women. And the biggest change that happened in my life after going to Sharia law is that when I graduated, I said, okay, now I'm not Muslim because I inherited it from my father, because I was born Muslim. Now I'm Muslim by choice, because now I know actually what is going on, and I accept it. And all these women around me, they were amazing. They came from different backgrounds. They all had something to offer. A lot of us, we ended up, getting our masters in Germany and France, and I studied here in US. So it was a very fascinating journey.
That is a fascinating journey. I think that's probably surprising for a lot of our audience to hear how that was separated. The men and women took classes separately. The men come in with a religious background. The women come in a more secular education. And they end up studying the same topics, but they do it apart. I think that would be odd for most families to think that's what you're going to go study, and what kind of work will they have? Where will you get a job?
Because according to Sharia law, at least that's the thinking among some scholars, a woman cannot be a judge. So you have Islamic studies faculty in the Sharia law for women, and then you have Islamic jurisprudence and Islamic studies, two different faculties in Sharia law for men. So my points were, if you cannot study the jurisprudence, what is the point? So you're not studying anything that is legal. You're not, your profession, what are you going to be? You cannot become a judge in Afghanistan or a justice, but it has changed. You can. Actually, a lot of my friends, they ended up working in really good positions at the Supreme Court. So you have to fight this mentality of black and white. No, there are so many gray areas where you can be productive. You just have to have the courage to, break the stereotype thinking of the society.
Oh, that's a great point. I mean, that's how all these changes are going to happen. Someone's got to challenge the system and say, show me in the Quran where it says a woman can't work in the Supreme Court. Show me. And if it doesn't say that, then
exactly.
Let's rethink it.
And I like that thought process of, I may not be allowed to do it now, or it may not be acceptable now, but when it does become acceptable, or when things do change, I will be ready and I can make a difference. You're not waiting for things to happen to you, you're making them happen.
That's right. Yeah, and that was my thought. I was like, no, I have to see it for myself. If I fail, at least I know it was my own choice. So I'm not going to blame it on others, because my father was like, no, you have to go to law faculty. And I said, then if I don't like it, if it didn't work out, I'm always going to blame you for the rest of my life. So let me just make my own choices. And it was a good choice. Yeah.
Your dad listened to logic, and it's hard for dads to say no to their daughters if their heart's really in it.
That's right. My father is an exceptional man. I am who I am because of him. So
that's wonderful. And you ended up moving into doing work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Afghan State Department equivalent, correct?
Yes. So when I graduated, I participated in an entrance exam in 2010, and I was shortlisted. I could get into Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I worked for 2 months. After 2 months, I had to leave because I was coming to US for LLM. And I just left on leave of absence. Currently, I'm also on leave of absence to do my JST. Okay. It's a doctorate degree in a legal field. So I left on leave of absence 2010 and 11. I came here to Los Angeles. I was actually in Orange County in California. So I went to Chapman Law School, and I did international and comparative law.
Fascinating.
It was really good just to see that, all these other legal systems, it's not that different from Islamic legal system. You just have to understand and study both to see the similarities and to see, what are the differences and why.
You could really write some fascinating articles these days to help people understand those comparisons between different systems, because there are a lot of questions about Sharia around the world. I mean, this is a great time to try to put that in simple English and put it out there to the world.
That's right. I would love to actually. I did a lot of research. I did write some law reviews, but I never published anything or articles. I should have had. I know there's so much to talk about. There's so much to say. There are a lot of similarities, and I did have some talks. For example, the first talk that I had was about the right of having 4 wives, multiple wives. It's always Islam is mostly criticized for that. And I met this friend who said, I really don't think Islam is a just religion. And I was like, okay, why do you think that way? And they were talking about how unfair it is for a man to marry 4 women, and vice versa. A woman is not allowed to do that. And then I said, it's not that easy. So you have to study, and then you will know, what is the reason behind it, and if it is really allowed or not at first place. And then I had a talk about that. I remember that friend of mine, he would openly say I'm Islamophobic and you can't really blame me for that. Look what's happening around the world. And he actually became my really good friend. He's still on Facebook. He still writes me. Sometimes, time to time he does write me. And it was really, I just really felt good that I could at least help one person understand that it is not that black and white. You have to study and you have to dig deeper to understand what is the philosophy behind some of the rules, and do they really apply in today's world or not.
I think that's a great point. And we make that point a lot on this podcast, which is the reason we started it. If you just talk to people a little bit, educate yourself a little bit, you can probably have a little more tolerance towards those things you just don't understand. Which is a good segue. I wanted to ask, we kind of met through social media. I think we met through Twitter, as I meet a lot of people in the world. What were your initial thoughts of this podcast? Why did you agree to want to do this? Or what did you think when you heard about what we're talking about and what we're doing?
Well, 2 reasons. First, when I listened to the talks, I had a lot to learn from it. And I was like, okay, if I can also help another person learn something new, that would be an honor, So, of course, education and educating people, spreading awareness. And that was initially the first reason. The second reason was the topic itself. I think every Muslim, whenever they get an opportunity to talk about something, they should not hold back. We should, allow ourselves to be heard. We can't just stay in our own bubble and expect the world to understand us. So it was I saw it as a very good opportunity to just, be heard. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's really rewarding.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what we're here for. I think it is about education, and as you've listened to different guests on our show and some of the different guests that are coming up, we try to give everybody who has varying opinions a chance to talk about it, because there's so many different Muslim cultures, as I like to say. That people grow up even in Afghanistan, that Islam is a little bit different in different parts of the country, and it could be in different villages. It's even different, based on whoever the religious leader is in that village. So these nuances are good to talk about.
Yes. Talk about the first misconception that is there. We were talking about the polygamy, right? About the multiplicity of wives.
Sure.
So
jump in.
this phenomenon, this law has many different interpretations, since you talked about, Islam being different from place to place. So even this rule, there are different Islamic scholars. They have different views on it. It has been always, interpreted differently at different parts of the world. So you can tell that, and mostly, if you really want to study Islam, you have to read different ideas of different scholars and comparatively for yourself decide which one is actually more accurate than the other.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's also about the different societies. In Afghanistan, in countries like Afghanistan, it's sometimes culture that takes, the face of religion or the title of religion. So a lot of things that are being practiced in Afghanistan is not Islamic. It's just the culture, but it's labeled as Islamic so that it's widely acceptable by people, and people, they don't question it.
Yeah, that's a great point. The next guest we're going to have on that we air next is actually made that same point. That was her opening. She lived outside of Afghanistan, and so she grew up with Afghan culture, and then she went back to Afghanistan and was hit with the fact that religion and culture had gotten all mixed up.
Exactly.
To the point where people couldn't figure out which was which.
Exactly. And I'm sorry that I jumped in that topic. And it was just to tell you that anything that is happening in Afghanistan is, I know, it's justified under the name of religion, but it's mostly the culture. You just have to have that on your mind. And the sensitivities that are there, unfortunately, you cannot challenge the collective ideas easily. So you have to just give the society time to grow out of all the, all the cultural practices that are not that Islamic or that are not that acceptable in today's world. You just have to give it time for the society to grow and to be more civilized. But it's also, even I studied in Pakistan too, so the understanding of religion also differs, in Pakistan. It's totally different from what you see in Afghanistan. And then when you see Iran and Saudi Arabia, two different faces of Islamic communities.
Oh, definitely.
But we gotta separate Islam from Islamic communities to understand what is the reality.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Holly, what was your big question? What do you want to know?
I just keep thinking about another interview we did with this gal who was living in Australia, and she ran away from home. I don't know if you listened to it. Her name was Omema, and she ran away because her dad was so strictly following the Quran and what it said. And she made a comment that, as my dad saw it, there was no open to interpretation. And so it sounds like there's this idea of you can be by the book or you can be progressive, or is that actually happening? Is the progressive view of Islam accepted?
Well, it's accepted in many societies. I think what we are talking about is Wahhabism. So what Wahhabi people, it's actually another sect, and I'm not giving any general judgment about it, but this sect, people who follow the sect, they also believe that Quran should not be open to interpretation. You have to accept it as it is. And in my view, since I follow another sect, it shouldn't be like that, because you cannot find all the answers, by not understanding, the reason behind, the intention behind, the Islamic, the Quran, and the ayahs that are there, and then you have to understand the history behind it. You have to see how Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, how he interpreted these, and what other scholars have to say. I don't think that we should, like close our eyes and then just accept everything without questioning it, and that's actually also against Quran, because Quran encourages you to question, to learn. So I know that some people, they are very strict with their views, and that's why their children, they cannot like accept that. It's actually doing a lot of damage to the Islamic community. I also know of another girl, actually, in our family. She had to leave her house for the same reasons, and it's quite sad. I had some talks with her, and then when I was talking to her, I just saw that, the way she was brought up, this way of, accepting Quran and not allowing, yourself to question things that are not clear to you, is not the way. It shouldn't be like that.
And that is where we will pause with Salma this week. We know we just started talking about the misconceptions. Salma has a couple more she'd love to cover with us. One of them we begin with next episode is the thought that Islam is oppressive to women, and we hear what Salma has to say about it. As always, thanks for listening. We appreciate your support. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at We're Just Talking About It, and you can email us at wjtanc@gmail.com.